Thank you all for coming so early. Did you all have a good time last night? Not awake yet? Can anyone in this section not see the screens because you would want to move to either side if that's the case, this being the big slide? Cool, okay, I'm going to get cracking. How many of you are introverts? So what I'm going to assume is, in fact, that you're all introverts. The ones that have put up their hands are, of course, the ones that are already confident with the people in the room, and the other ones are too introvert to put up their hands. I used to pretend I was an extrovert because I thought in order to be successful, that's the kind of personality that you needed to have. What I realise now is that I had extrovert envy, and I had developed a bunch of coping mechanisms so I could pass as an extrovert, whereas really I'm super anxious inside. So one of the strategies that I started to use, I didn't even realise why I was doing it at the time, so I have to go to a lot of big gala dinners and network, which is the worst scenario possible. You're standing at the edge of the room, you can see 800 people that you don't know, and you have to think, who am I going to network with here? I need to make an impression with these people. There are people in this room that could be future employers, they could be customers. I have about 10 seconds to make an impact with them. And how I'm going to do that when all I want to do is mumble peanut butter and run out of the room? So what I used to do is I would turn up about an hour early, and I would stand at the edge of the room and sort of psych myself up for it. So I'd be standing there looking out, and I would look for a target who looked like they would be easy for me to talk to, and they wouldn't give me that withering look that says, who the hell are you and why are you wasting my time? I lucked out on one occasion last year. I saw a friend of mine, Pat, and I thought, well, I'll start with him. He's talking to someone. I'll go over, say hello to him, and then he will introduce me to the person that he's with. So, soft entry. So I went over and he introduced me to his friend. He said, Michelle, do you know blah, blah? He's the CTO of the Department of Big Government Things. I immediately started panicking, sweating. I work in commercial. I have no access to people in government. Here was a C-level executive, immediately first one in, and I don't know, what do I say? What is my elevator pitch? In fact, I couldn't even remember what my name was. Just when I was thinking maybe I should say I need to go to the bathroom and run away, he leaned in and he said, hey, you're Michelle Sandford. I follow you on LinkedIn. I love your articles. And I was just so relieved because I thought, this guy already knows who I am. He knows who I am, he knows what I think, and he likes it. I don't need to prove anything to this guy. I have established credibility from a distance without having any physical access to this guy. I don't need to prove anything, and we can skip the awkward part of the conversation and go straight to the good part where we're telling each other jokes and getting a beer, which we did. So, by the end of this session, you will be able to do at least these things. I'm mostly going to talk about LinkedIn as a tool because it is the one that has given me the most success to date. But I also use Twitter at conferences to accelerate the usefulness of the tool. How many of you are not on LinkedIn? Maybe just the shy ones. Anyone not on Twitter? Oh, what a scandal. How do you know where to go? So last night we knew what time to go to the boat and who was walking there and where the parties are. All the information is being tweeted out on the internet. So you need both the tools. You need Twitter for everyday business you need LinkedIn for that, and you need Twitter for conferences and events to sort of accelerate stuff. During this session, I will be tweeting out extra content. So if you follow me on Twitter, you will have access to that extra content. If you do not follow me on Twitter, then you can still find me on LinkedIn, and most of the content is published there as articles. So no need to feel like you're missing out, but you'll miss the excitement of live tweeting. Do you all have LinkedIn on your phones now? Because if you do, you should just be ashamed. If you do, within the LinkedIn app, there's a little button that has the networking symbol. And if you click on that and then click on Find Nearby, and everyone does it, you will see all the people that are in this room, and you'll be able to connect to them immediately and make friends with a room full of like-minded people. It doesn't stay on for very long. It only stays on for a few minutes, so you can't use it to stalk people indefinitely. Okay, so I do not know who or what the Kardashians are, but I do know who Lars Klint is. I do know who Troy Hunt is, and I do know who Heather Downing is. To me, I hadn't really seen what was the huge advantage in being a tech influencer until I saw Lars Klint do a lock note at DDD Perth a couple of years ago. He said that he'd sat himself down and asked himself the hard questions. Where did he see himself in 5 years' time? What did he want to do with his life? If he won the lottery, what would he do? And if you ask people that question, most people say if they won the lottery, they would travel the world. For Lars, it was similar to that. He said, travel the world, live on a farm in the middle of nowhere, and raise an army of robots. That all seems pretty sensible. And then he thought, I don't need to win the lottery in order to do that. There's no reason why I can't do that with my life right now. And he proceeded to share how he was doing that as a tech influencer. In the middle picture there, he's holding this travel bag thing, and he got that for free. And a lot of people send him stuff for free. And then he talks about it on the internet. And I thought, I would like to have one of those bags for free. I don't care about using the same kind of coffee machine as Beyonce, but I would like to have a very useful travel bag that Lars Klint recommends. And I thought, this could be handy. People could send me stuff for free, and I could travel the world. That's not a bad thing. So I have been following his advice, and here I am. We're in Oslo. And I've also done this talk in Melbourne, Australia, and in Seattle. Not exactly this talk, because I have tried to adapt it for developers, so you can get excited for that part. In Melbourne, it was for gamers, and in Seattle, it was for internal Microsoft people. So therefore, that was just a lot more salesy. So, the questions you want to ask yourself are, what do you want to do with your life? Either you want to work in industry and you want to have your pick of where you want to work. That being the case, you don't want to be the one that is going and knocking on every door. You want to be able to just have those choices and have them coming to you so that you can say yes or no to all of those big companies. Or you want to be in a position where people are just throwing money at you and you don't need to work for a big company. But either way, what you need is profile. And luckily, there's a lot of free tools on the internet that allow you to raise your profile without you ever leaving your house. This is an advantage if you are an introvert, and this is how I noticed how useful the tool was, because it enabled me to do a lot of stuff in advance of ever physically meeting people. So this is what the LinkedIn profile looks like. I'll show you a little bit more detail. So here's 3 examples. One is just some guy who has tried to connect to me. One is another speaker at this conference, and one is someone I work with. That blue banner at the top is the first thing I want to point out. That's the default banner. You can just leave that as blue if you want, but you're kind of wasting an opportunity. You could put something more eye-catching in there, which is going to make you more interesting when people are browsing through profiles. Or you could use it to put some credibility at your back. So what he has done in the middle there is he's put the I'm speaking at NDC Oslo. This says, I am a tech god. I am backed by credibility. Look at me, I'm an expert in my field. I am speaking on the subject and people are paying to see me do so. That's a lot of credibility at his back. Antoinette, who works with me, she's put the Microsoft Redmond campus there. In case you miss that, in case you don't know that, she's put a little logo in there that says Microsoft. What that says when people look at it is, I am backed by the might of Microsoft, which is also pretty mighty backing. So what you want to do is, yeah, it's nice if you have some sort of landscape picture, seascape, your garden, whatever. That's eye-catching. But don't waste that opportunity. Use it to link yourself to some sort of expertise or credibility. If you speak a picture of yourself in front of a room full of people, speaking to a crowd that is absolutely enraptured is ideal. If you've written books, putting them up there. If you, I don't know, you're just interested in talking in, IoT stuff, then you could just put some sort of IoT kind of photo in the background. Then when people look at you, they will associate your name with IoT. So, use it to link it to something good. What have we got? So, yeah, ghosts. See how he has put no profile picture in. A lot of people are very shy, and so they say, I don't want to put my picture up. My thinking is the shyer you are, the clearer your picture should be. Because the purpose is to avoid any embarrassing and awkward incidents. So what you want to do when you are going to meet a contact in your field, or going for an interview, or meeting a customer or a new boss or whatever in a coffee shop, you want to be able to avoid the embarrassing bit where you're walking around asking strangers, hey, are you such and such? Are you such and such? Are you such and such? It would be better if you could just both look each other up on the tools in advance and then recognise each other, walk straight over, say hello, get into the conversation. So, you see where I'm going with this. It's mostly all about avoiding embarrassing bits. I should have said, I have kind of themed the whole thing after Uncle Bob's book, Clean Code. Have you all read that book? Anyone? Everyone? Yes? No? No? If you haven't read it, Clean Code, really good book, really interesting. And he has some other ones, Clean Architecture, Clean Coder, all of that, but Clean Code, great book. And what he says is your code should be so expressive that you almost don't need to comment it. You need to write your code so beautifully, so explicitly, that people looking at it will know exactly what you're trying to do with it. And so it is with your LinkedIn profile. Let's not make them guess who you are. Let's not hide your awesomeness. If you are skilled in particular things, put it up there. Make it very clear to them who you are, what you do, why you are better than everyone else in your field, why you are the one they should be offering the great job to. Put it there. Don't make them guess. Make it expressive. Make it clean. What I've called out at the bottom there and the top, the no duplication thing, a lot of people use the line under your name to put their job title and company. That's duplicating stuff because further down in the experience section it's there. Better to use it to say what you are. And when I say what you are not your job title. You are especially not your current job title today. You are more than that. My job title, my actual current job title is super boring, and I get really upset if I have to actually use it. And so I have much more interesting things in there saying what I am, what I do. Some people use it to put a quote in there, a sort of tagline, something that expresses who they are. I realise that, in fact, I'm talking quite fast, and maybe English isn't everyone's first language. Is it too fast? No? You're all excellent. And his company at the bottom there, the reason it's a grey box is because he hasn't made a company page for his own company. It's very easy to do and it doesn't cost anything. Everything I'm showing you is within the free sections of the tool, so you don't need to pay anything to LinkedIn. So he could have, made a company page. Obviously, for Microsoft and other big companies, they already have one. If you link it, it's referenceability. It's showing, it's making credibility for you by who you work for. And you can just link all the things one to another without causing people to look things up and say, who is this person? Who is this ghost? Do they even work for a real company? Just make it very easy, make it very explicit, make it very clean. One of the first things I loved about LinkedIn was recommendations. So recommendations are essentially references, blockchain references, really. When I came to Australia, I came from Belgium, so I'd been working for IBM in Belgium and went to Australia. I did my first interviews by Skype, and then when I got there, I went into the office and did my second interviews there. But they never called my references. And why would they? When you look at a CV, the reference is a name, a position, and a phone number on the bottom of that. I would have been giving them a name, a position, and a phone number in Belgium. So in a completely opposite time zone, some random phone number, I could have given any phone number and said, that's the vice president of IBM, give him a call. It would be super, super difficult to, look that up and to reference whether that was a real thing or not. Whereas on LinkedIn, I have 46 recommendations on there. When you read those recommendations from top to bottom, it actually makes me cry because those are recommendations, those are references that span your entire career. These are people that you worked for, people that worked for you, people that worked with you, customers, partners, vendors, friends, whatever, volunteer work, teammates, they can be everything. So you get a 360-degree view of what it would be like to work with you. And that is really what every interview is about. When you are sitting in interview, they are just looking at you and trying to figure out, how would this person do on my team? Would they fit in with my team? Would they bring something different? Who are they? And how do I see them working within this company? 46 recommendations give them a pretty clear view as to what that would look like. You're taking away the guesswork. Plus, those recommendations stay with you through the course of your career. So instead of me now trying to get my boss from 5 years ago before I started at Microsoft to give a reference to the next company, and he can't remember any of the glorious things that I did. And in fact, he has this vague feeling of disquiet because after all, I abandoned him and went elsewhere. So, why would he really want to give me a good reference now? But if he had given me the reference at the time, when he was teary-eyed and sad because I was leaving and he was remembering all the good times we had together, that's the best reference. So asking for references, yeah?
I find it really awkward to ask for references.
It is awkward to ask for references, especially if it is a few years after you worked for them, or even if it's you're leaving right now, it can be pretty awkward. The best way, the easiest way, is when you do something really good and someone says, that was amazing, your work on that project was outstanding. I feel like, I don't know, I want to give you a meal voucher or something to commemorate how great you've been on that project. You can say, well, you know what, there is something you could do. How about putting a recommendation on my profile? And that is when it is front of mind and when they feel the weight of gratitude upon them for the great stuff you have done. You're helping them because they want to repay you at that point. They want to find some way to pay you back, ideally without promoting you or giving you a raise. So, so you're helping them. Okay, so yeah, if your LinkedIn profile is very good, then like clean code, it should be obvious you are worthy. And those recommendations are kind of like comments that are just commenting on your life. When I first joined LinkedIn, they didn't let everyone write articles. You had to be a special person to write articles. You already had to be famous. You already had to have a following. And then they would invite you into a special program and you could write articles and you would be called a thought leader. Today, any of you can write articles. It doesn't matter. They will let you do it, and you can share them, you can publish them, and you can build your own tribe. When I first started doing it, I don't know, I had quite a lot of connections because I'd worked for IBM and I work for Microsoft now, but, not a huge number. And another guy I was looking at, he had 20,000 followers. And I just thought, well, he's writing articles around, tech stuff, around tech trends, and he has 20,000 followers, and he's in a role where he is meant to talk to CIOs and people of that level. And I thought, imagine if you were able to influence the thought leadership, the thinking of 20,000 C-level executives. You would hardly have to do any work at all going into businesses. They would already know. They would already know what you think. They'd already trust you. They'd already know your areas of expertise. And they would already have bought into it, because why else are they following you? When you're starting, though, you think, who is going to read my stuff? Who is interested in the stuff that I do? Well, in fact, probably you think that less, because you probably do. Do you write technical articles? Everyone? Blogs? No one? Some of you? Yeah. So, start with what you know. That's good. Write about what you know. But if you don't have any followers, you don't need to worry that people on the internet will mock you for the ineptitude of your articles. They will not, because when you don't have any followers, no one's reading your articles. Apart from, maybe your mum, but probably not, because actually your mum doesn't understand what you do, right? My mum still forwards me job adverts for help desk agents. So the beautiful thing about LinkedIn, though, is that it is, it's completely non-judgmental. So you can write what you know. So what I did here is I wrote an article called "So You Want to Work at Microsoft?" because I have a lot of people asking me all the time, how do I get a job at Microsoft? Or even worse, or better, maybe, depending on who they are, can you put me forward for this job at Microsoft? And so I wrote this article explaining, how they could get a job at Microsoft, what it means to work there. And that is my most popular article of all time, because I was writing what I know. But that isn't what I think you should do. What I think you should do is write what you are passionate about, write what you care about. And it doesn't matter if you are not an expert in that field right now. So all of my articles, I would say, are mostly 101 level. They are translation articles. I write stuff that translates technical stuff into business stuff. And I get a lot of C-level execs and directors reading my stuff because they don't understand all of the acronyms that their technical people are throwing at them, and they don't want to look stupid by asking about them, and they don't have time to read the hard articles that will explain all that stuff. So they, in fact, read my easy stuff. I had thought, when I started writing them, that I was writing for my mum and dad and for that kind of person, but it turns out that C-level executives are pretty lazy, and so they're the ones reading it. You can edit your stuff on LinkedIn. So if someone comments on your post, that is so stupid, you have said this, and everyone knows it's that, then you can reply to that comment after you've looked it up to check it and say, I see you're right, I'm going to amend that article. Thanks for pointing it out. You can then go in, amend the article, and then after they have liked the comment, you could delete them both if you wanted. You can really clean up the whole thing so there is no evidence of your idiocy whatsoever. Continuous improvement. The other thing is you can go back into that article like a year later, update it with the state of how things have changed since then, put a new photo on the front, change the title if you want, and then it will pop straight back up to the top of your feed, and you've just refreshed content, so you haven't even started from scratch, and you're bringing in more followers, getting more engagement, and you're keeping yourself fresh and up to date, and you're growing as an expert in that field that you want to be growing in. You're probably all thinking it seems like a lot of work. And if anyone does follow me on Twitter, you're probably thinking, wow, she is on there all the time. This is too much. I don't have enough time for this. My day job is coding, and that's what I want to be doing. In that case, so in fact, I don't spend a huge amount of time. A lot of stuff is scheduling, automation. You only have to do 3 things every day. 3 things every day in order to build up your following. So you start by liking a couple of posts. So you go into your stream, you find a couple of posts that are about the area that you want to link your expertise to. So don't just be liking random stuff. Like stuff that is in the field that you want to link your name to, so that when that like filters through all of the networks, it's showing you linked to that article. You can comment on a couple of things. Again, commenting the same as with your code. Don't just comment for the sake of commenting. Don't put nonsense comments in there. Don't put comments in there just to be commenting. So don't just say very good or love this or something like that. Comments always should be adding value into the code and into LinkedIn. So add something that adds to the conversation and keeps it going, something that gets people interested and talking. Normally, the author should be replying to those comments as well because they want it to be more. The more people like it, comment on it, the more feeds it gets into. The power of LinkedIn is that it doesn't matter if you only have 100 connections on there, because one of your connections could have 3 million connections. And if that connection engages with you, then your stuff is not just in front of your 100, it's in front of their 3 million. And if any of theirs then like and add into that, it's into theirs as well. So it's a massive network that you can leverage, and it doesn't matter if you are no one, because it is the technical manifestation of karma. Put good stuff into it, and good stuff will come back at you. So what I have there on the screen is 3 examples. The one in the middle is just a Microsoft article that I shared. When you share an article, you can just share it. So if you were super, super nervous about adding any possible comment on it yourself in case the internet turned on you and devoured you, then you could just share it. That being the case, though, you will get very few views because you haven't added any value to that post. They could have consumed that post at its source. What you want to do is you want to say why that article was great, what it was that you loved about it, what was the value add, what was the best point, something like that. And then your network will thank you for it, and they will like it, they will read it, they will share it. I've actually done less than that there. I've been even lazier. I've just copy-pasted a couple of lines from the article outside of the article because it's a funny quote. And yeah, so that post got more than 1,000 views with a few seconds worth of effort. My name linked to DevOps in the streams of 1,000 people. The third one this is my favourite one to talk about. So what happened here is there were public transport strikes in Sydney, and Daphne shared an article from the ABC network that said, Sydney has been brought to its knees today because no one could go to work. No one could go to work because the trains and buses are not working. Now, all she did was she has shared that article and she has asked a question. Why do we, in this day and age, where the majority of us work in front of a screen all day, need to physically go into the city centre and physically sit at a desk? Why was Sydney brought to its knees because people could not physically go into an office? Should we not should we not be thinking differently about modern workplace, thinking differently about how we want our employees to be productive? She was linking herself to digital productivity and to modern workplace. She was asking people a question, she was calling out leadership, and she was saying, let's do things differently. And she did it just by sharing a standard news article. That's pretty easy, but that's a really good conversation that she brought up there. I say good code is like a good joke. You don't have to explain it. And so it should be like with you. LinkedIn makes it very easy for you to show all that you are, all of who that you are, without you having to pitch that to someone when you're trying to impress them. I try to make one post every day, one long form post every day that is just my observations on the world around me. So all I do is I'll be somewhere like this, I will take a picture, and I will then write a post saying it was wonderful to speak at NDC Oslo today. People mostly smiled at me and they weren't giving me frightening looks. Something. These posts that I have done, these are all like everyday posts like that, and they have way, way, way more views than any of the technical articles that I share, because people are interested in people. Now, it isn't Facebook, so there's no, I don't want to be putting my baby up there, but although I do, because my baby is a fur baby and it's a little dog and it's the cutest thing, but I would have to put that baby on a Microsoft desk, really, in order for it to be LinkedIn content. So that one that I have of Jason there holding his baby, that has the highest, 38,000 views. It has the highest number of views of any post I've ever put up. And the reason is, I walked into the office in the morning, he's holding his baby in one hand, he's on the phone to a customer and he's frowning and he's under the Microsoft sign. I just walked past him, took that picture, went into the office and wrote that post in about a minute. 38,000 views. People found that interesting because they like a glimpse into other people's workplaces. They like to know where you can work and where you can have the freedom to work how you want to work. I said this was good because it means if he needs to bring his baby into work, he can bring his baby into work. There was only one snarky comment on there that said, I don't think this is true work-life balance. If he has to bring his baby into work, then that's not balance. He should have been able to take the day off. And I said, well, that's not choice. If he wanted to take the day off, he could take the day off, but he chose not to. And that's his choice. That's how your workplace should be. You should be able to manage your own life. You are a grown-up. And people like that, because apparently a lot of workplaces don't treat you like you're a grown-up. He took another picture with his baby later in the day where he was posing in front of the Surface Hub. That didn't get nearly as many views because it's not real life when you're posing. So people prefer the one where he's frowning, where he's obviously in some difficulty. Okay, a lot of people say I talk too much about donuts, and there are other people that say that you can never talk too much about donuts. For me, donuts will say everything about life, after all. What is life if not a giant donut? But that's what you need to bear in mind when you are thinking about what is the mix of content I want to post on things. So you want to, for the meat of your donut, the bread part, you want to make that mostly solid technical content. So, your own technical thinking, maybe you've written a really clear how-to article or something. Some thought leadership and some case studies, that kind of thing, mix those things in. So not your own stuff, maybe stuff that's other people's stuff, or your own stuff over the top of other people's stuff. The very little bit, the sprinkles, that's just your very bold statements where you're, expressing some want to say political opinion, because you don't want to go full on political on LinkedIn. But, you do want to allow glimpses of your personality to show through. You want to be authentic. If you present that full on professional, I'm not a real person, I am just joined to the collective, kind of thing, then no one will really engage with that. They could just go straight to your company's page and get that stuff. What they want to see is you as a real person talking about your real stuff and expressing it in your real terms, because the way you understand your stuff is different from the way other people understand it. And there will be a whole tribe of people that want your perspective because that put things in a better context for them. So you can see a lot of analytics in LinkedIn. When people start to view your posts or your articles, you can click on the little thing that says the number of views, and it will tell you who is viewing your profile, your articles and your posts. It might not show you all of this in that I can't tell now. So I have never paid for LinkedIn, but at a certain point Microsoft bought it and then they gave us the paid version automatically. So it might be that I can see more now than I could see then. So maybe you can't see all of the people from all of the companies that are following you. But you should be able to see the top 3 of each thing, I think. So I can see who's viewing me from what companies, from what roles are viewing me, and from where my audiences are. You may not want to have this kind of spread. So I have a lot of different companies looking at me. I have people from every level, from salesmen down at the bottom of the pile to the directors and C-level executives at the top. And I'm just laughing because if I said that at Microsoft conference, they'd be upset. Salesman at the bottom. You may not want that spread. You may want to focus. There may be a certain area. So you want to work at Google. So maybe you want to target people that are working at Google. And so you want to connect to a lot of people from Google. You want to follow the company, you want to share their posts, you want to like their stuff, you want to put your name in front of a lot of people working at Google, and specialize on that. There's no point then in, also connecting to a load of people at Salesforce, because what are they? Who would want to work there? I'm just kidding. Definitely some people do. Yeah, and across the world, like maybe you only want to work in one country, and so therefore you don't need to connect to people across the world like I do. What I have done here is I really wanted to open up all of my choices. I wanted to make it so that I could work anywhere in the world if I wanted to, that I could work in any of the big companies if I wanted to, or any of the ones that are kind of in that smaller but still interesting space, Atlassian, Dropbox, those kind of bigger than startups, because obviously I'm very expensive. But, still doing exciting things. So you want to target what you like. It looks like I haven't targeted because I have such a wide spread, but that is just because, I want to keep all my options open for the life that I want to lead. So either way, just think about what you want to do. Think about the thing that I particularly like about targeting people across the whole world is that when I put a post in my stream before I go to bed, when I wake up, there's 2,000 views on it. So LinkedIn is working while I sleep. It wouldn't do that without the Americans. So it's the Americans doing it while I'm sleeping in Australia. This is conference stuff. So before I go to a conference, I'm particularly anxious because there are, I don't know, how many thousand people here? 2, 3, 4? A lot. Several thousand people here. And I know it's going to be a big crowd, and I know that I don't want to waste time by standing awkwardly in a corner. I would like to meet some clever people who will inspire me with their awesomeness, and if I stand close enough to them, some of that awesomeness will rub off on me. So, but you can't just go and stand close to people because that's awkward. So in advance of the conference, what I do is I go to the speaker's run sheet, I take off all the speakers that I want to go and see, I put their pictures together in a collage, and then I put a post up saying, really looking forward to NDC Sydney. I'm looking forward to seeing these speakers' sessions. They're going to be really good. Then I've tagged all of those people in. You do that by putting a little @ and putting their name. So then it will show up in all of their feeds, my feed plus their feeds. So I'm immediately putting my post in front of many, 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 many more eyes. I'm linking my credibility to that of the speakers. Those speakers are happy to have it because it's lifting them up as well. It's putting them in front of everyone else's eyes as well. So by lifting them up, I'm also being lifted up, and we're all lifting each other up. It's, what I said, technical manifestation of karma. And everyone's happy. It's win, 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 win. But it also means that I can then immediately send a connection request to them saying, hey, looking forward to meeting you in Sydney. And because they are happy that I've spooked their session, they are much more likely to accept me than, rejecting me and saying, go away, strange person. And so then they accept me. But also, more than that, they are more likely to seek me out at that conference, and we'll be able to have a selfie together, and we'll be able to have a coffee together or a glass of wine or something. And so instead of me having to stand awkwardly at the back of a row of 20 people wanting to talk to them, we're already friends. We have made our friendship in advance of the conference. We have skipped over all of the awkwardness, all of the I don't know you, and gone straight to the we already know each other, we already value each other, we already bring something to each other. And that's awesome. That's awesome. That's a picture of Troy Hunt at PubConf in Sydney. They say there are no bad pictures of Troy Hunt on the internet. Nobody knows whether it is impossible to take a bad picture of him or whether he just has an army of security bots trawling the internet and taking them off. However, it is a challenge to you all. If you come to PubConf tonight to try and get a bad picture of him, I guarantee it will not happen. Okay, so these were the ones that I did before I came to this conference. So I kind of went into overdrive for this conference because it's a much bigger conference than Sydney, and so there are way more people I was excited about seeing. And so the first one I did way back when they first announced the conference one sheet, and then the second one I did kind of a few weeks ago, and then the third one I did last week. The reason the third one has a load more views on it than the first two is not because the conference is closer and everyone's more excited. It's because all of those people have loads of followers themselves. So specifically, I picked those people out because of the size of their networks to see what would happen. So I'm always trying to, you want to, like with your code, you want to experiment and you want to look at the analytics and you want to see what happens. These are super famous people, apparently. And so I'm still adding a lot of value into the conversation because indeed a lot of people want to see those people. But in my first two, what I've picked out is just ones that I'm really interested in. So therefore, you're getting my perspective on these ones will bring something different. See these ones. Because like the third one, really, you could already know that if you're into tech. So what I say about the internet is that you pay people in social currency. So you have no need to bribe them with chocolate caramel koala bears. You pay them in raising them up, and they raise you up. It's a a continual endeavour to find the win-win for everyone. So this is a really great example. We had a conference, an internal conference for Microsoft in Sydney. We had a keynote speaker, Oscar Trimboli, who was an external speaker. He spoke to a room of 300 people from Microsoft. And I'm looking at him on the stage there in saviour position, which is like the ultimate speaker pose. This is the one that you want the photo of you doing on the stage. So he's there like this, talking to all of us. And, oh, look, they're doing it. And all of the audience are looking up at him enraptured. You know, they are absolutely fascinated. And I thought, this guy, he's a really great guy, really great speaker. I want to speak to him afterwards, and I have zero chance of doing that. There's 300 Microsofties here. They are all taller and stronger than me. They will elbow me out of the way, and they will be able to speak to him. And even if I got to him, I don't think he's going to be impressed when I mumble peanut butter and run away. So what can I do? And so I took the picture of him on the stage in front of a room full of Microsofties, and I made the post saying, this was an amazing keynote session Oscar Trimboli gave to 300 Microsoft people today about mindfulness, and we learned blah, blah, blah. What I'm giving him there is an endorsement. I'm giving him a recommendation that will get him work at Google or at Facebook or in front of any other top company. They will know that he did that. He did it at Microsoft. It went really well. The whole room was feeling like we had our money's worth. So then I sent him the connection request, because the minute he comes off the stage and checks his notifications, he will see that I have made this post. He will be grateful, and therefore he will accept my connection request. That is him repaying the social currency I have paid him. He then leveled that up. So back on the recommendations, he then said, hey, glad you enjoyed it. If you want to, why don't you write me a recommendation? And, well, he's made that very easy for me, because it's right there. I've just seen the presentation. The link is in there. I can click on it. I can give him the recommendation saying he was awesome. Well, that's good, but now I've paid him twice. I've given him a great post, and I've also given him a recommendation. So he is now in my debt. This is what you want, of course, to have people of credibility in the field in your debt. But, of course, no one can bear it. People cannot bear to be in other people's debt. They want to pay you back. So, sure enough, the next thing that happened was I received this beautiful set of cards and his book in the post. I was pretty impressed by that, because he had sent them to Microsoft in Perth. Now, I had seen him in Sydney. That's where our head office is. So he has gone to my profile, he has paid attention, he has read where I am from, and he has sent the things directly to me there. That's pretty impressive. I like that. So, but I'm now in his debt because he sent me a physical gift. So I need to pay him back. And so, of course, I made a post of the cards talking about, how awesome they are and what a great gift it was and what a great man this was. And this can just go on like this between us forever. But there is nothing lost in that linking myself to a speaker of his credibility, there's nothing bad in that for me. That's all win-win. And him being linked to me, he is doing this because he as well sees that I, in fact, have more organic reach than anyone in Microsoft in the world on LinkedIn, even from little tiny Perth. So it is possible to be in the smallest town in the middle of nowhere and to get your stuff in front of more people just by doing those 3 little things each day. Oh, how do you know which connections to accept? So a lot of people ask me this, and they say they only accept connections from people they know. Well, that is pointless, because then you may as well just be going person to person and making those connections. So, you could be in front of 8 people per day making a connection maybe. I'm getting 2,000 views overnight. I don't have physical access to that guy that I met in government. You want your stuff to be in front of the eyes of people at the next level, the people that can help you get where you want to go, the people that can help you move on with your life. So accept connections if you feel like they bring something of value to you and you bring something of value to them. Because if they are the one that has everything and you have nothing to offer, then that's, how are you going to be doing that social currency thing? Really, you need to both bring something to the table. There's no value in me connecting to a butcher, a baker, or a ballet dancer. This guy is a really good example that I just wanted to show you real quick. He's a ghost. He has a blue banner. All of the companies that he's worked for are not linked to actual companies. He has no recommendations. So this guy has literally nothing that I can sort of reference and say, yeah, this is a real person, this is a good person, this has value. Apart from, he has 13,000 connections. 13,000 connections is a big network that I could leverage into. However, everything he's ever posted is in Iranian. So therefore, all of those 13,000 people are probably useless to me because my followers don't read Iranian. The stuff that he shares will be putting all of this commentary into my feed that is not useful to my followers. So while I would like to tie up the Middle East with some broad range of connections across there, I can't do it with this guy because he is not useful to me in that way. And I don't see how I'm useful to him either. He hasn't given me anything to help with that. So I've tweeted out a whole bunch of extra content during this session, but you can find most of it on my LinkedIn profile. You can actually find everything that you need by stalking me generally on social media. When you send the connection request on LinkedIn, it's good if you put a little note in there saying that you met me at NDC. However, if you do it from your phone, it will just send it without giving you that opportunity. But there are 3 dots next to the connect button. If you click on that very quickly, after you realize you've done that, it will give you the opportunity to personalize that message. All you need to do is just give people a little reason. Remind them where they met you, or remind them what you have in common or what you're bringing to the table. So I often connect to other people in tech and say, I'm really interested in connecting to other awesome people in tech. That is enough. Generally, other awesome people in tech will accept that compliment as their social currency and they will connect you. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed the session today. As you see, I could talk about the topic all day. So feel free to grab me the rest of this conference, and I hope you will all come to PubConf tonight, where I have a 5-minute one, which gives you the quick version of how, if you don't want to do this the good way, and you don't want to feed into the karma of the internet, you can in fact just take down all the other tech gods and seize what you want through evil purposes. So I hope I'll see you tonight. Thanks for coming.